Hey folks, welcome back to Game Time. I'm John Eads. This is episode 3. New episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Today is Thursday, so we got another episode for you. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. Well, I guess I keep saying Twitter, but it's the X app. I'm still getting used to that. At WAFB. Find our episodes on YouTube. Just look up WAFB. We're also on WAFB Plus and on WAFB.com. My personal socials at John Eads WAFB and at John Eads TV on Instagram. 4 more topics today. And we got a guest. A lot of exciting things to talk about, but we're going to start with an update in LSU fall camp. And who better to bring in than our local insider here at WAFB, Jacques DOUCET. Jacques, come on in.
John, great to see you, and I'm going to keep calling it Twitter. I'm not going to call it the X or whatever it's called, the two swords, or looks like something from medieval times.
Yeah.
Confusing.
We can agree on that. I don't know. Elon Musk is changing, it's like it's his little toy, and this is an app that so many people rely on. It's like, what? Come on, man. It's serious stuff,
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't think it was broke, but anyway.
It was not broke. No. All right, well, follow Jacques on X, Twitter, whatever, because he's got updates every day from LSU fall camp. He attends every day that the media is allowed to go. Had some really nice things on there today that I actually saw. So I'm just curious, over today and the past couple of days you've been to practice, some of your big takeaways.
Well, I think that there is an overall confidence and an overall, hey, we're in a much better place than we were a year ago. A year ago at this time, we didn't know who the starting quarterback was going to be. The offensive line was all in flux. As far as running backs and wide receivers and just overall team feeling going into that first game. Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, spoke to us today, and he said, look, we're going to that first game. We had all these questions. Now we know Jayden Daniels is our starting quarterback. We know that we can count on Emory Jones and Will Campbell that were true freshmen a year ago in the offensive line. Now they're super sophomores and have been baptized by fire. And a second year in the playbook as well, that they're not learning something brand new. So they should, it's less thinking now and more just playing football, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And Mike Denbrock now in his second year with that offense. And Brian Kelly overall said a year ago, our team didn't know how to practice. We had guys that were taking a knee during practice, taking their helmet off, throwing their helmet. We don't throw our helmet in practice. They were doing that a little bit too. So just the overall understanding of Brian Kelly's organization, responsibility. They maximize their time. And, defensively, Mason Smith is back. He's on a revenge tour, so to speak, after injuring his knee in the first game against Florida State last year. Omar Spates, looking forward to seeing him at linebacker, pretty much a free agency pickup, so to speak, from Oregon State. Greg Penn has improved at linebacker. I guess the big question right now is cornerback, and how is that going to go with Zy Alexander at this point on one corner, who played at Southeastern a year ago, and Hammond America. And look, Frank Selfo's done an amazing job out there, and they've been highly ranked every year and in the national rankings of the FCS, but this is going from the Southland Conference to the SEC. It's a big jump. And then you've got Deuce Chestnut, who today at practice, at least while I was there, made a couple of nice plays on 7-7, jump routes and broke up passes. One got knocked up into the air and intercepted by Sage Ryan today at practice. So those are a few. I'm just kind of rambling along here. I'll just say another thing today at 7-on-7 today. Jayden Daniels, they were snapping the ball from the 5-yard line, doing 7-on-7 going in. He threw a pass. Malik Neighbors, who did big things last year, a 1,000-yard receiver, laid out, made a diving extended catch. It was a beautiful hookup. And then a couple plays later, from about me to you, it felt like Jayden Daniels threw one in hot. I mean, a bullet. And Shelton Sampson, the true freshman from Catholic High, strong hands, put his hands up, caught it, snagged it for a touchdown. So those were at least a couple of impressive things that we saw today on the 10th of August.
And 11 more practices to go for this team. Well, I guess there was one today, right? So now 10 more.
I'm not sure how many. I just know I think that me, you, Darren, Greg, Liz Coe, a bunch of people are leaving for Orlando. I think it was 3 weeks from yesterday.
It's coming up, under a month.
So it'll be here pretty fast. Yeah. The students, it's always funny. I go to sometimes I go to church at Christ the King, the Catholic church on campus, and during the summer it's pretty packed. But man, that Sunday before the students go to the first day of class, it's like they fell from the sky.
Yeah.
and you start to feel that energy on campus. Okay, the students are back. Football season's about to be here. A lot more fender benders, people who can't drive. I'm just kidding. But no, that's kind of the case too. You know, when all the students come back, I think LSU had over 30,000 students last year or a year ago at this time. Somebody lives in my neighborhood, works at the university, said we got like 7,000 or 8,000 freshmen, which was a record. So anyway, a lot of students coming back, a lot of energy coming here pretty quickly. And then here's the deal. You wait for it to get here, you can't wait, and before you know it, you blink, it's Halloween, you blink, it's Thanksgiving, you blink, it's Christmas, and the season just takes off and leaves you.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping that LSU is playing past Christmas, because of course that's when the playoff is, and the national championship after that. On that note, I'm curious real quick, if you can sum up what this team didn't have last year that they need to have this year to be a national championship contender, in a sentence, in a word, what would it be?
Well, they still don't have a bell cow running back. Mm-hmm. You know, in 2013, Jeremy Hill, you know, you could turn around and give him the ball 20, 25 times, and he was a powerful guy who could break long runs and everything. And certainly we lived through the Leonard Fournette, you know, probably maybe the best running back I've seen in my lifetime at LSU. His sophomore season was amazing. I think he went over 2,000 yards. He had that bad game against Alabama, but I don't think you could put Thanos in the backfield trying to run against a 9-man front, and that would work. You know, then Darius Geis was an electric talent. And since then, you know, Clyde Edwards-Helaire pretty much did it all for the 19 team, although that was a little different in terms of, you know, the things he could do. So they still don't have a bell cow. They've got so many running backs. So I don't know if they've got a single guy that they can, you know, turn around and give the ball to. So that's different, but maybe that's fine again.
They might have one. The problem is I'm going to talk about this later on in the show today. They just can't pick one, you know? Yeah.
Well, you got John Emery, who still has not eclipsed 1,000 yards in his career. As much as we've talked about him and being a 5-star and all that, you know, Josh Williams is the epitome of what a student athlete should be. He's already graduated. He's got like a 3.7 GPA in business. He does everything he's supposed to do. I think he's my vote for the number 18 jersey this year. I think he's got a good chance of getting that.
That's a good pick.
The freshman, Brian Kelly, seemed to kind of say that they're not going to be a factor because he was talking about the running backs the other day, and he said at the end of the day, the experience rises to the top. Yeah. And so Caleb Jackson and Trey Holly, they may play in 4 games, which they can do, and still not lose their year of eligibility. Right. I think that Logan Diggs, the running back from Notre Dame, may end up being the leading rusher by the end of the year. Okay. You know, he didn't come here to sit on the bench. So, and then you got Noah Cain, who scored 10 touchdowns, who looks really good. And then you've got the guy who's got more lives than a cat, Trey Bradford, who's been, this is his 3rd time on the team. He's left twice already, come back. He had to stop with the Oklahoma Sooners involved in there. Brian Kelly said, look, he's done everything he's supposed to do. We didn't get him back in school. He had to do that on his own. And so he could be a factor. And I think maybe they need to force some more turnovers on defense.
Agreed. Talk about that too.
So how many turnovers? Did you look that up?
Didn't look at the turnovers, but in the 4 games they lost last year, I'll give this away now, they lost the turnover battle, which I guess is obvious, but if you want to win games, that's not something you can do. And they ended up being +1, actually, for the whole year, which was surprising to me. So they didn't have those games where they turned it over like 3-4 times, and they were like -3, -4, but it was just little, -1, -2. And in those close games, well, the Florida State game was close. The other ones weren't necessarily close that they lost. Those are big possessions that you can't afford to give away.
Yeah, it's really interesting to look back on last year and talk about what to expect this year. Because on one hand, you beat Alabama, you won 10 games, you won your bowl game in as decisive fashion as you could ever win a bowl game, and that kind of cleansed the palate after losing to A&M and Georgia. Sends us into the offseason under the Florida sun. But late in the year, like we said, you wobbled around at Arkansas. Thank God Harold Perkins sacked the quarterback like 10 times that day. And then A&M, they played their best game of the year against you. That's the egg LSU laid. And then earlier in the year, I know it was an 11 a.m. game, and everyone was down about that, and LSU had 2 special teams mistakes right off the bat. But Tennessee came in and really dominated you at home. So you look at that, and you're like, well, is LSU close to becoming elite, or do they still have some warts that they haven't, smoothed over? So I think that this team, look, there's been this narrative that's been established now that Kim Mulkey and company, they pulled this rabbit out of their hat. They were good. no one thought they were going to win the national title, and then South Carolina loses, and then LSU gets hot and plays the game of their lives against Iowa. And then baseball was kind of national championship or bust to a lot of people, and certainly they played their best baseball at the most important time, and all these people came through, and they win the national title. Now there's this narrative that Brian Kelly's on the clock, and he's under the gun, and all this. Look, would it be an ultimate storyline? I think some people are calling it the Tiger Slam, the LSU Tiger Slam, if they could win 3 national titles in 12 months or whatever. If they go 11-2, say 10-2 in the regular season, and they win a New Year's Six bowl game and go 11-2 and finish in the top 10, I think people should be happy and not say, "Oh, we didn't win the national title." But I know what's expected around here, and Brian Kelly's getting paid $10 million a year. So Georgia is going for history. No team has won 3 national titles in a row since Minnesota back in the 30s. I don't think anyone's really around to talk about that. So, that's the challenge. And can you get by Alabama in the West again to make it to the championship? Because I don't really think anyone else in the West is a contender. Doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like A&M or Arkansas or State or Ole Miss. So that's kind of my general thoughts on that. But it's a lot different than a year ago.
Right.
They were picked 5th in the West last year out of 7. 6 wins, I think Vegas had them at. Now it's more like 9 wins and picked 1st or 2nd in the West.
Yeah, see if they can handle those lofty expectations, and we'll get a closer look into if this team can be elite this year, at least a first look in Orlando in that game against Florida State, who should be a top 10 team, and we'll be there, boots on the ground in the Sunshine State to cover.
Yeah, they are in one poll already.
Coaches.
The coaches poll.
AP we're still waiting on. They should be top 10, though.
The coaches poll should be called the Sports Information Directors poll, because I don't think any of those coaches really vote on that. They probably say, "Hey, look, I'm busy. You do this.
You take care of it." Yeah.
And they send the votes in. But yeah, I think the AP poll usually comes out like 2 weeks before the first game,
it's
on
coming
Sunday or something.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
Me too. Well, thanks for coming in, Jacques.
Thank you, John. Just another person who's taller than me in a chat. How tall are you?
Not by too much. 6'2".
6'2". All right. Well, I tell people I'm 6 feet. Nobody believes me.
It's pretty close. I think you're fine. We're both at the top of this game up here. So, well, thanks for coming in.
Keep up the great work. This guy's pumping out more content than Netflix. Bang, bang, every day.
It's all going to the same place. WAFB. Thanks again, Jacques.
No problem.
Until next time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you. All right, so let's continue on talking about LSU and some not so good news earlier today on the recruiting trail for the Tigers. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. Do you want the dessert first or the vegetables is the question. I think we'll give you the good news before the bad. So here is the good news. Caden Durham commits to LSU today. There were 2 guys committing, both from the same high school there in Duncanville, Texas. Durham was one, Colin Simmons the other. Durham is the 4-star running back from the Lone Star State, and he's coming to LSU. He commits to the Tigers. That was kind of expected coming in, and it's a really good pickup because that's now vaulted LSU into a higher ranking in the national terms, but also you're just solidifying that running back room even more going forward. So Durham is a 4-star guy hovering around the top 100 depending on where you look, what recruiting service you use. On 24/7 Sports, he's number 95 nationally, the number 9 running back, and one of the top guys in the state of Texas on the recruiting trail. Really came down to LSU and Oklahoma. His last visit was LSU, that Bayou Splash event, so really inspired confidence in folks. And this guy can fly. He's really a do-it-all running back. He's got the speed, he's got the physicality, and the frame. He's a shorter dude, about 5'10", but 200-plus pounds, and he has speed to go along with what he can do from the power standpoint. Sub-11-second 100-meter dash, right around 10:25, 10:30. Some of his numbers are wind-aided, which doesn't really matter to me, but I'm just going to put that out there as a disclaimer. The point is he can really move. He can really fly. So he's the 23rd commit in LSU's cycle and vaults the Tigers inside the top 10 on 24/7 Sports. I even saw from Shea Dixon at On3 that LSU is now in the top 5, I believe, with that commitment. So the class finished in the top 10, firmly in the top 10 last year. That's a really good pickup for this group. Now, the commit they didn't get from Duncanville High School, Colin Simmons, 5-star, number 8 national prospect, 6'3", 225, big edge guy that really would have come in and started definitely next year at that edge spot, because I've talked about this on prior episodes. What this team doesn't have right now is that second prolific edge rusher, a B.J. Ojolari type that can get into the backfield, get pressure, and cause some havoc. They don't have that. They're not going to get that with Simmons. He commits to Texas over LSU. Kind of saw it coming. That's kind of how it goes with high-profile recruits like this. They like to tweet out things and put out things on social media that lead people to think one way just to go the other. So, he's posting videos of Colin Baton Rouge and, posting Twitters of LSU. You're like, oh, this is a slam dunk. I mean, this guy, he's going to LSU. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I've seen this movie before. They end up going to the other school. They're just throwing out different videos, different waves to get people excited. Like, yeah, he's coming, just to go the other way. So he ends up committing to Texas. He's compared to Nick Bonito, who played at Oklahoma a couple years ago. He's in the NFL now. And really what he would have been is a Harold Perkins-type player, but plays defensive end. So it's a tough loss, but you brought in a 5-star edge player last year in Deshaun Womack, who a lot of people are talking about a lot here in fall camp, and a lot of people think could play this upcoming season, play some kind of a role, and obviously in the future he's going to develop and be a stud. So you don't get Simmons, you do get Durham, and your class right now is firmly in the top 10. So Brian Kelly continues to work wonders and make some magic happen on the recruiting trail, and LSU has another excellent running back, and we'll talk more about those running backs later on in the podcast. So good for the Tigers picking up a 4-star. All right, sticking with LSU, I want to talk more general now, and trends to change is what it is. So I researched and looked into numbers and dove into certain things to look at kind of what happened last year that kept this team from being successful. And I found a couple of different things that were consistent themes throughout the season, and you'll see them when you look at the games that LSU lost. So let's start with this. Lack of pressure plays well into what I just talked about in the fact that LSU doesn't have that second defensive end guy that's getting in the backfield, getting sacks, getting TFLs, forcing opposing quarterbacks to make mistakes. Last year, in the 4 games that LSU lost, 10-4 season, in each of those 4, this team had no sacks. And that meant there were no turnovers forced in the back end. We'll have more on that in just a second. But they weren't getting in the backfield and turning offenses one-dimensional. They weren't getting into quarterbacks' heads consistently in these games that they lost and forcing those turnovers, forcing those mistakes. And you need those things to happen when you want to win these big games. Let's reflect back to last year. What are the games that LSU lost? Florida State in the opener, a game they probably should have won. Then they lost to Tennessee, like Jacques and I were talking about a minute ago. Game that was a blowout, a game where, Tennessee runs that up-tempo, fast-style offense. They like to throw it all over the yard, right? No sacks in that game. Then Texas A&M. The defense, in general, just was not good that game. A&M had 500-plus yards of offense. Happens, but you can't let it happen. And then the SEC championship, no sacks against Georgia as well. So that's the biggest question, and we've talked about this so much already. How can LSU go from 10-4 to maybe 13-1, 15-0? Things like that. You got to get pressure. You need your playmakers to make plays in these big games where maybe you don't have the talent advantage, but you need individual players to step up. So need more pressure next year, somehow, some way, from this LSU defense. With that pressure will create turnovers. LSU was +1 in the turnover department for the season last year, which isn't bad. I mean, you want to be in the positive. It's a good place to start. But in the 4 games they lost, I'm just focusing on those 4, they lost the turnover battle. -1, -2, nothing crazy. But in these games where you're playing a top 10 Georgia team, a top 10 Tennessee team, even an unranked Texas A&M team, you can't afford in close games to give up possessions. That Texas A&M game was a 15-point loss. I think they turned it over twice that game. That's 2 drives where if you score, you can get 15 points. Touchdown, touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. So that gives away the game right there, basically. Just those unfortunate bounce of ball situations. Now, what might help this defense this year with these turnovers is you're revamping that secondary. Can Zy Alexander, can Major Burns, can Deuce Chestnut, guys like that, force more turnovers, get their hands on balls, and just make plays at the DB position. That's kind of something that will help play into this whole turnover thing. But if you want to be more successful this upcoming season, you need more turnovers forced defensively, and you got to take better care of the ball offensively. What might help with that is vamping up that run game. Can you find 2 or 3 running backs who who can find success. It's not Jaden Daniels alone relying on his feet to make plays, being that dual threat guy, right? Can you get a Noah Cain more involved? Can you get a Logan Diggs more involved? So you're not throwing it too much. You're throwing interceptions. You're putting the ball in harm's way. That's going to help too. So got to clean up the turnovers next year. Two other things. The run defense buckled in these big games. Florida State, the opener, they allowed 131 yards. That's not that bad, honestly. But the common theme is that they allowed 130 or more yards in each of the losses, and it got worse as the season went on. Tennessee, they allowed 263. Georgia, 255. Texas A&M, 274. And that goes along with the passing offenses that each of those teams had last year. A&M wasn't that good, but in this particular game, it was really good. Georgia, of course, had Stetson Bennett and all the weapons on the outside. They put up 200-plus passing yards easily. Tennessee did the same when they had Hendon Hooker. So if you allow opposing offenses that are known for the pass, get the run game going too, you're in trouble. And LSU was last year. 0-4 in the games where they allowed 130 more rushing yards. So you need to clean that up this upcoming season. What's going to help with that? Mason Smith is back. He's clogging up the middle. You add in Jordan Jefferson, who we talked about on episode 2 on Tuesday. Check it out if you missed it. The nose tackle from West Virginia. You got more depth at that D tackle spot. And you're hoping that guys like Savion Jones can step up at the end. And your linebackers, Omar Spates, transferring from Oregon State. Harold Perkins is back. And a little more experienced secondary, Major Burns, returning. So you're hoping that the run defense will just get better in its own with the personnel guys coming back. But that's got to be better too. And then finally, this is something that was just interesting that I noticed. Over the past 10 years, LSU's road record, 24-20. That's not that bad. But if you want to be a national champion team, you can't be putting up those numbers over a 10-year basis, and really a year-to-year basis either. You look back to early 2010s, 1-3, 1-4, 0-3. In years where LSU was successful, think 2019, 5-0 on the road, on their way to the national championship. But then there's the other side of that equation, 2021. When LSU is less than stellar, Coach O is fired and walks out the door. 1-4 on the road that season. Now last year, signs of optimism. Brian Kelly 3-1. That's what you need. That lone road loss to Texas A&M, of course. You need to cut out those road losses, and that's a trend that needs to change. And maybe with Brian Kelly just being here, that will change. There's a lot of turnover in those years, Les Miles, Coach O, and whatnot. But that's not a pretty stat, 24-20 over the last 10 years. One last thing on this. I found this very interesting. Coach Kelly, in his entire FBS career, 27-32 on the road. Not great. But at LSU, he's 3-1, and that's all we care about. And we'll see what he can do this upcoming season. So those are things that LSU needs to change. All right? Let's just recap. Getting more pressure in the backfield, getting more turnovers, taking care of the ball better. Run defense needs to stand up much better, and just be good on the road like they were last year. Keep that going. All right, over to topic 3. Spence, if you want, Cam 2. Yep. Yeah. P5, all right. All right. Let's talk about these LSU running backs a little bit more. And this is something that I found interesting to kind of personify this topic. I'm calling LSU's running backs the snack drawer. Okay, and here's why. You go into your kitchen, you pull out the drawer. What do you got in there? Maybe you got some trail mix. Maybe you got some chips, some cookies, some Oreos, whatever it may be. A lot of different options, all right? You can't have all of them because you're going to get full and you're going to feel pretty bad after eating all of those snacks. But you can have one or two. And that's the theme for the LSU running back room this year. Brian Kelly and the offensive coordinator, the offensive staff, they got to pick a couple of guys, one or two, maybe three, and go with them. Pick a snack or two, some popcorn, some Cheetos, whatever. Don't eat the whole snack drawer. Don't use the entire running back room because you don't need to do that. Pick one or two running backs, roll them, stick with them. Noah Cain and Josh Williams might be the top two. They were on the Doak Award watch list released yesterday, given to the nation's best running back. Williams was the bell cow last year. At times, it seemed. Over 500 yards. LSU's number 2 rusher behind Jaden Daniels. 97 carries. He had 6 touchdowns. And he was a good receiver, too. 21 receptions for over 100 yards. There were games where he was the guy. You get 14 carries, 15 carries, 16 carries. but it wasn't consistent. Then you have Noah Cain, who seemed like the starting running back in the bowl game against Purdue, and he had a pretty solid season too, transferring in from Penn State. He had 76 carries, 400 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 double-digit carry games. So those might be your top two, but we've already talked about this guy too. Logan Diggs, you got him in the equation as well. 4-star transfer running back from Notre Dame, where he played under Brian Kelly for a year, and in 2 seasons went over 1,000 yards and for 7 touchdowns. Right now, based on Phil Steele's preseason magazine, a guy that talks to Coach Kelly before he publishes it, Logan Diggs, the listed starter. He might be your starter. But then you've got more names. It just goes on and on. You reach to the back of the drawer. You got more snacks that have been sitting there for a long time. And in this case, they have been there for a long time. John Emery, he's been here forever. Former 5-star recruit. Of course, missed a whole season because of some academic problems. But he's back, and he was back last year. He had 8 games where he had 5 or more carries. He was kind of a consistent secondary running back, right? And he went for 76 carries, 375 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Pretty good numbers. But he was brought here to be that lead back, and he's got that 5-star pedigree. He's just in the room, too. And to cap it all off, you've got Armani Goodwin as well, who hasn't played a game since Arkansas November 12th, but had an awesome game against Mississippi State where he had 9 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown, a long touchdown. And even he got about 50 carries for about 300 yards. So how many names was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 names. One guy can carry the football at a time. You can't give all 6 of these guys carries. It can't be, all right, Emery, you get a drive here. Goodwin, you get the next drive. Williams, you get the next. No. It can't be like that. And it's too bad because you want to give all these guys chances. They've stayed at LSU. They've been committed to the school. But you just can't bring a guy in off the bench cold and hand him the ball in the 3rd quarter when he's been sitting on the sideline all game. So find your guys in camp. Find a Josh Williams. Go with him. Noah Cain, Logan Diggs, fine. Pick your top 2, pick your top 3, and you just got to go with them. Whoever fits into the offense best, whoever's going to win you football games. But this can't be an experiment. It's national championship or bust this year. So pick your top 2, top 3 running backs and go with them. If the other guys don't like that, they can hit the transfer portal. They can portal out of here. It's too bad, but that just is what it is. If I'm being honest, some of these guys should have left already. There's just no room. There's not enough carries. This is, you're coming home with 10 chicken nuggets and you got 5 kids to feed. It's not going to work. People are going to be left hungry. They got to transfer out. And if they do that, you gave them every opportunity. They had a chance here in fall camp to win an RB1, RB2, RB3 job. They didn't do it. So, unfortunately, that's just how it's going to go. Now, you've also got some true freshmen, Caleb Jackson, Trey Holly. Jacques and I just talked about it. They're not going to play this year. I mean, they're very talented guys. Jackson from Liberty Magnet locally, and Holly, a big dude, has the build to be a good college back. They're going to redshirt, though. They might play 4 games, and they're allowed to do that and retain their redshirt. That's probably about it, though. So, look, you've got a drawer full of snacks in the running back room. You can't eat all the snacks. You can have 1 or 2. And that's what Brian Kelly and company need to do this fall. Pick 1, pick 2, maybe 3, and just go. Rotate them, run them, roll them. If you find one, you find your alpha dog, great. But that's something that I want to see from this offense this upcoming season. Because Jaden Daniels can't do it himself. He did it all himself last year. He was the leading rusher on the team. He gained over 1,100 yards. That's not sack adjusted because that doesn't really... when you're going for a 10-yard scramble to move the chains on 3rd down, that's 10 yards. I don't care about the sack yardage. That just happens. Funny enough, last year, real quick here, was LSU's best running year since 2017. They averaged 184 yards per game. But I want more of the load taken off of Daniel's shoulders. You've got the backs to do it. Now find your top 3, please. Okay, let's finish out this episode with some Saints talk because New Orleans first in action this weekend against the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City. First preseason game for the Saints. Should be a lot of fun. It's at noon on Sunday, NFL Network, so check it out if you got nothing going on. Football's coming back and doing so quickly. Here are some things, though, that I'm looking for in this preseason game, and I'll start with the most important position on the field, Derek Carr. Getting his first reps, we think at least, with the Saints. He should play in this game, at least a couple of snaps, you would think. I just want to see maybe his decision-making. I'm not sure how much they're going to let him air it out, take control of the offense. But here's something. He's had 28 picks in his last 2 seasons, of course, with Las Vegas, the Raiders there. Over the prior 3 years before that, 2018 to 2020, he had a grand total of 27 over 3 seasons. And keep in mind, this guy, he's always healthy. Like, he's played pretty much every game he could in his career. So the past 2 seasons, he's had more picks than the prior 3. I want to see his numbers dip there and his decision-making get better. Can we get an early inclination of that in the first preseason game? That's something I'm curious about. Michael Thomas as well, a guy that Derek Carr will throw to. Is he ready? Is he back? He says he's 100% healthy. He's getting closer and closer to being 100% healthy. He hasn't been recently. This is quite a stat. He has played just 10 games since 2019, the year where he went off at 1,700-plus yards, 149 receptions. He was 99 overall in Madden. Where did he go? It's like he was Houdini. We haven't seen him since. Played in 3 games last year, 7 in 2020, missed the entire 2021 season. This is a guy you need back. Derek Carr had Devontae Adams. He doesn't have him anymore. So Michael Thomas needs to step up along with Chris Olave. Defensively, Zach Bond. Can he be that third linebacker? We've talked a lot about this week because Anthony Barr, veteran free agent, visited with New Orleans. They haven't signed or made a deal yet. I'm not sure if they will. We'll have to just stay tuned and wait and see. But Zach Bond was a third-round pick in 2020, and he's primarily been a special teams and backup player. A lot of people are saying he's the worst draft pick for the Saints in a pretty long time. Third round, that's high value, and you haven't gotten it from Bond. But now Caden Ellis is out the door. Pete Warner has been excellent, but he gets injured sometimes. He missed a couple of games last year midseason. So can Bond in preseason show and flash his capabilities, what made him successful at Wisconsin, and what warranted a third-round draft pick? Last year, I read something that Ellis, there was a bit of a concept change and a philosophy change where he was moved closer to the line, and it fit his skill set better. Maybe they'll do the same thing with Bond, and it'll work out for everybody. So Zach Bond's someone that really needs to step up. It's really a make-or-break year for him. He's got to have a big year to get extended, to get a new contract elsewhere. So can he step up and show that he can be that extra linebacker? Because NFL defenses are switching to more nickel concepts, and Bond's not a nickel defender. He's pretty much a true outside linebacker. But can he flash and showcase some things that he could do to be an asset for this defense? That's something I'm curious about. Then finally, the backup quarterback battle. Jake Haener, Jameis Winston. Kevin Batiste, who also works here at WAFB, says Haener's been electric in training camp and practice. Folks have been saying he's, quote, lighting it up. And I like this guy. I watched him play a little bit at Fresno State. There was a game where they were playing UCLA on the road, and they upset UCLA. And this guy, I think he had cracked ribs or broken ribs in this game. He took a sack, he went down, he came back in the game and threw a touchdown pass and won Fresno State that game against a pretty good UCLA team that year a couple seasons ago. So he's got that moxie. That's what the New Orleans staff has been preaching about this guy. This is just the it factor. Some people have it, some people don't. Haener apparently has it. 4th-round pick, they moved up to get him, and it seems like all indications, early indications, are that was a good pick. Now, he's battling Jameis Winston, someone who all offseason has been saying, I'm still a starting caliber quarterback. And he has started a lot of games in his career, but he's been a backup for the past season and a half or so. And this is prove-it time for Jameis Winston. He's got to take every opportunity he has to show what made him such a high draft pick years back and made him a coveted starting quarterback years back. These preseason games, he's probably going to get a lot of time. Because if Haener's outperforming Winston in practice, why are you keeping Winston on the books and on the team if you can just cut him? And Haener's a serviceable enough backup. So Winston's got to show out. I'm curious to see if he does that. Folks have been saying that when Winston takes over the offense in practice, there's a noticeable dip in the production level, the electricity. Haener comes in, shades of Derek Carr and what the starters can do. So Haener or Winston for QB2, something I'm curious about. Because if you're the Saints, you don't need to keep a expensive backup on the books, on the team, if you don't need to. Haener can be that guy. So we'll see what they can do with their reps. And again, that game is coming up on Sunday at noon. All right, that'll wrap up another edition here of Game Time with John Eads. Our official launch next week on Tuesday. So hit the bell for the post notifications. Subscribe on YouTube, WAFB, just look it up. Follow us on the X app at WAFB. and follow my personal socials at John Eads WAFB and John Eads TV on Instagram. We'll be back next Tuesday with another episode, more LSU, more Saints, and we'll try to get another guest in here as well. By the way, before we go, big shout out to my producer, Spencer. He's been putting in work, and I really appreciate all the contributions he's made to the show, and we're going to do some really fun things the rest of this year and next year, of course, as well. Game Time with Johnny's just getting going. We're really excited about it. We hope you guys are too. We'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.